Now, basically it's just, you take the stranded wire, you have the straight ahead wire, you bare that for about this long. The stranded wire you open up and splay out all the 7 strands, and then you wrap them around very nicely on both directions so that you get what they call a Western Union splice, which is basically a T. You've got the branch wire and the through wire here, and then you solder that, and that is very, very solid and won't go anywhere. And then you tape that all up, and it's just fine. They make modern connectors, a thing called a hug-a-bug, the hug-a-bug is what covers it. It's a split bolt Burndy connectors, they call them, which is what they would do nowadays. Some places nowadays would use a crimp connector, but we're not going to use any of those because they weren't used at any time during 100's life, and it was 1948 that the car last ran, and how much work they actually did it in that time is probably very, very little. So what you're looking at now are the ends of the air pipes that go to the various things that are above deck. This big pipe, which will swing across when we finally finish with it, is where the air compressor will put its air out and through this big pipe, and then it goes down, around to the end of the car, and back and into the first main reservoir, what we call the wet reservoir. And the reason there's all this extra pipe is this acts as a radiator to cool the air so that any moisture in it ends up in the reservoir and condenses out and doesn't end up getting in the brake cylinder, brake system I should say. There's a check valve up on here which will keep the air from leaking back through. Now, you don't normally see those, but I bet the compressor toward the end was kind of leaky and its valves were leaky, so this was just an extra way of keeping any air leaking back through the compressor when it wasn't actually running. Moving a little bit ahead, you see 2 of the 3 pipes that go to the motorman's brake valve. This is a double-ended car, so you had a brake valve on either end of the car. And we have these sticking up through right now because we want to lay the floor out, and we want to make sure that there will be provision in the floor, holes, so for the brakes pipes to come through. And we needed to know just where they came out. So we've set them on here, and then we're going to take them off when we actually lay the floor or the deck of the car. Then we can just screw them right straight down into the pipes where they go. The other end, you can actually see the motorman's brake valve on there, or the engineer's valve, as they call it, with its 3 pipes. One is called the train line, one is called the exhaust, and the other is called the brake pipe. And then the device coming toward us a little bit is the feed valve. The actual air that goes through the brake valve is at a lower pressure than what is coming out of the air compressor. It's a difference of 115 down to about 85, I think, and I'd have to check those figures to be sure. Anyway, that feed valve is a reducing valve.